Next, we have USC. And this is an interesting team to me because there's talent like no one else in the conference except maybe Oregon with just I don't know like this is USC has kind of been the same now for 5 years. They've under Chip. I'm sorry, the coach's name escapes me. Help me out.
Clay Helton.
Clay Helton. I'm sorry. So solid team. It's not like he's done a terrible job. He also hasn't probably done the job that you should do at USC. Keaton Slovis is back at quarterback, a probable first rounder, good quarterback. They also have a freshman, Jackson Dart, who's impressing early. I've heard some good things about him coming from camp. Probably doesn't have a chance to play much this year with Slovis, but it just goes to show like USC never seems to be struggling for talent at quarterback or at receiver. The running game was pretty bad last year, but they did get Keontae Ingram, the transfer from Texas, so maybe that helps. Maybe it doesn't make a whole lot of difference. It doesn't seem like the running game is really what is their bread and butter anyway. Drake London is an absolute beast at receiver. So then the rest of the receiver room is just filled with talent. Brew McCoy is very talented, but is suspended right now. I don't know how long that will last. And then they have some transfers as well, as if they don't already recruit great receivers. Jake Smith from Texas, Katie Nixon from Colorado, Taj Washington, all good receivers who could contribute. And they also have Gary Bryant Jr. and Kyle Ford. The problem with the offense, I would say, has been the offensive line. It's been very subpar, needs to improve. That's really where they need to, just figure it out, because that's where teams like Oregon have really done well in doing well in the trenches, and that's where USC is fallen behind. It feels like under Clay Helton. The defense, kind of the same story. A lot of talent. Drake Jackson is an awesome defensive end. Corey Foreman, the number one recruit in the country, also a pass rusher. Lots of talent in the back seven, but not a lot of proven guys. It just feels like this is a team that is not known anymore for toughness and just being solid all around in the trenches. But if you have that level of talent, there's always a chance that they could turn into something much more impressive. Not a very tough schedule this year. You think do you have them going over this year?
I do. I think Helton has been on the hot seat for years. It seems like. I mean, he's been on the hot seat really since he pretty much got hired there. He's got a bona fide quarterback, and there's not many schools in the Pac-12 that can say that right now. They've got a really, really good quarterback there, and they're obviously talented. There's always talent at USC. There's always going to be NFL players walking around that locker room. There just always will be, just kind of the nature of the beast there in LA. So I like them. I think they'll win 9 games. I think they may win 10. Their schedule, when you look at their schedule, they have a fairly easy non-con, not too tough, with the exception of Notre Dame. They do have to play BYU. BYU is not going to be what they were last year. BYU is going to have taken a step back, so that's not going to be nearly as tough of a game. They actually lost to BYU last year in Provo. That won't happen this time around. But I don't see where their losses come from. I don't see them losing 4 games out of this. They miss Oregon in the regular season. I think they will play Oregon because I think they're going to win the Pac-12 South and play Oregon in the Pac-12 championship. That will be my pick to represent the South out of that. But I think they probably will lose to Notre Dame. That's probably going to be. I say that's going to be a loss. I think Notre Dame will do pretty good this year, but having Slovis against a conference where there's not much decided as far as quarterback is a huge advantage for Helton. I think that will really be the kind of the catalyst to what gets them to 9-3, maybe even 10-2.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm on the over here as well. Really like their team. Like, it scares me a little bit how much I like them. I think I mentioned the same thing a week ago with Texas. Like, these are teams that historically in recent seasons, I don't know if that makes sense, historically in the last decade or so, have consistently underperformed. But it just feels different somehow this year, and I like their team. As a Notre Dame fan, I'm scared of USC. I don't know. I'm not sure I would pick USC to beat Notre Dame, but it looks like a toss-up to me, and because of that, I mean, there's a chance they could be 12-0 going into the Pac-12 championship game. So I'm definitely on the over. Too much talent there. Think this is a very solid team. I do think Clay Helton will retain his job at USC. Any more thoughts on them?
Not really. It's for me as far as betting. This feels like a slam dunk. I'd feel very confident that they're going to win 9, if not 10 games, maybe more. They're going to be far more talented than anyone else, maybe even more talented than Oregon. They have you can just look at their roster and there's studs all over it. So as long as they can, just stay focused. We've seen USC in kind of in recent years and kind of alluded to it, have just some stinkers, for lack of a better word, just a few games where they just don't show up really. They don't really get off the bus and they lose to someone that they really have no business losing to. Maybe last year at BYU, you could maybe point to that game as well, even though BYU was fairly decent last year. But USC was more talented. There's no question. USC, they're not going to win the Pac-12 for me. I think New Year's Six Bowl, very much in the question.
Yeah, and I will say it does feel like the recruiting is kind of it's a big deal based this year is very big, I think, for that. Right now, in the class of 22, the top 2 receivers in the state of California just recently committed to Notre Dame and Oregon, and it feels like that's been happening a lot. So I think if USC can find a way to win 11 games this year, like that might turn around. Like they could become a top 5 recruiting power again, like they were not that long ago. And I feel like we've kind of forgotten about that. Like USC is absolutely the dominant name on the West Coast, and if they return to being a top 10 type of team, like I think the recruiting is going to explode for them.